Glorious rising light warriors. Greetings to you all, agents of light, sort of truth, guardians of earth and protectors. I welcome you back to the channel. So, this message or this download, it came at me through a dream just this morning, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but as I was digging around it, Spirit revealed to me to do a first part of it, which had to do specifically with children and children entertainment. And the next part of it is going to encompass the dream itself. But what I was getting is that as I delve into this one, I'm going to receive more information on what has to do with the other side, which is like from like the youngsters, like teenagers, to like the millennials. Okay. But the first thing that was coming through was to first bring awareness on what starts with the children. Now, this, I believe a lot of people are already aware of, how children's animation and cartoons and children's entertainment and programs, children's entertainment have been programmed or have been programmed with a lot of things that are not exactly for children. A lot of things that involve sex and violence and improper language. Okay? And what was coming through was that it's been a long time since this mode of programming or this way of programming has been happening. When you look at a lot of the things that children have watched, like a lot of these different programs from Disney and from Disney and DreamWorks and all these things, all these companies, when you look at some of them or when you go back to watch some of these specific cartoons now as an adult, you realize how there were actually a number of things that just were not right, either in the theme of the story or just some of the cartoon, the drawings, or like the symbols, the animation itself. And what was coming through was that this has been a systematic programming that has been happening for a long time. Okay? And this is something that has continued, but now is being done on a different scale. It's almost like now they've gone a level up, and it's not just them, but other individual companies that have also picked this up as a way to feed or program children into these kind of energies. And you would think to yourself, why would they be doing that? Like, they can still do different types of like animation or do similar animations and still get millions of views and still make money if it's about money. But that's the thing, is it's not about the money. The people that do these things, they are under the influence to program children in a way that kind of like feeds their mind with these sexual things and abusive things, where they become, their brain almost like gets used to it or gets accustomed to it somehow, so that as they are growing, facing these different situations or coming in contact with these different things doesn't become odd to them. And so a lot of children are experiencing things in school that are inappropriate, and they don't discuss it with their parents, or they don't tell their parents, because somehow they are feeling like it should be normal or like it's natural. That's because they've been programmed by some of these various programs, entertainment programs, animation programs. Okay? And what was coming through behind that was how it has become even more dangerous as they get into that stage of adolescence. Because from that, when you look at, for instance, movies or animations that are rated like 12 and above, like PG-12 or PG-13, they aren't exactly PG-13. They are even worse than some movies and some adult animations, in the sense that certain things are put out there like it's supposed to be fun or like it's supposed to be a joke, and it's not appropriate for children of that age. And why it's even more dangerous is because at that stage of adolescence, their brain has developed more, and they are more prone to want to try certain things or to be fixated or focused on certain specific things and want to try it. So at this stage, it's even more dangerous than when they're kids, because when they're kids, they're just being programmed. But as adults, it's almost like they're being mentored somehow, not like mentored, but like they're being taught. You understand? You can program a kid, but you can teach an adolescent. Certain things you won't be able to teach a kid, you can program them to do that. But with an adolescent, certain things you won't be able to program them to do because their brain has already developed a bit too far. You can teach them. You can teach them to have interest in it. So a lot of things were coming up also about children being involved or getting sucked into a lot of different situations that exploits them sexually or immorally. Okay, let me just use the word immorally, because some of the things that came through were quite heavy, but I don't feel like laying them out like that, because I want this to still carry a very light note. Okay. Certain things that are immoral, and somehow they are being turned to enjoy or like these things. Okay. They are being made to want to practice these things more and to allow themselves to indulge in those things freely. And an example, something that's coming in my mind right now, is how when you look at Hollywood, a lot of the elite have children that have turned, have become transgender. And no, I don't have anything against my LGBTQX plus, all that, brothers and sisters. I love all of us equally, but this is specifically for what I'm talking about. And what Spirit was saying is like, how do you think these kids got to the point of wanting to fully change and transform freely? There was a process in their early stages where they were introduced to these immoral acts, introduced to these various things, whether it started with the programming or the part where they were being taught. But there were specific points where they were introduced to these things and made to like or taught to like them, to the point where they started to indulge in them. Because how do you have like an adolescent, like a 12-year-old, wanting to strongly identify as the opposite sex, or regard the opposite sex as like interesting sexually? I don't know. I really don't know how to place this, but I'm trying my best here. Okay. And it's like a lot of them, some of the things that they are fed, in terms of the things that they are fed mentally, they watch, is programming them into these immoral behaviors or immoral thinking. Okay. And another thing that was coming up strongly was how, just like how, again, I was saying, as adults now, if you go back and you look at some Disney movies and stuff like that, and some of these like DreamWorks movies, animations from the old times, you see the symbols and stuff like that were programming children and were directly insinuating certain things. And a lot of those things have to do with also the abuse and the molestation of children and other people, where it's like from a young age, children were being introduced to how it's almost like they were being made to see, to look, or to see that it's normal for molestation to happen. It's normal for abuse to happen. It's normal for things like rape and physical abuse of all sorts to happen. When children's entertainment is supposed to be light and positive and educative. Okay? So, the other part, which I think carries a much heavier and darker side, which is more related to the dream that I had, has to do with how a lot of these people that were trapped by this programming are now adults that are trapped in a certain lifestyle that has opened them up to certain like demonic sexual kind of like programmed AI shit. Like it's a very weird twisted thing. You understand? And in the dream, it was like, I was like sitting with a congregation that like they were listening to like a pastor or a preacher, okay? And then the next thing is like I go to the next in the same building, I go to the next room or the next floor, and it's like a group of like millennials that are just like very free-minded and open thinking and stuff like that, and they're just having a party, and it's like, and it's like the organizers of the party is like a brother and a sister group, and it's just like a really fun vibe. And it just seems like people that are not into religion but they're like spiritual, and then they're just like really fun and open-minded. But then as the thing goes on, from seeing with my eyes, it begins to get very raunchy and then just very inappropriate, very sexual, and very inappropriate. And then these millennials are doing like all sorts of things and just getting involved in all sorts of weird sexual acts. And somehow it's like they were getting very drained after these acts, because it's like something was pulling from their energy. Okay. And then as I start to like, at some point I go back to the part where it's like a church or a religious room. And then at some point I'm like, nah, I'm leaving this place. But as I try to leave, somehow there's this some kind of like programming thing where it's like they stop the time, or somehow it's like it's freezing people, and it's like the organizers, like it's almost like the person came to grab or latch onto me, and it was literally like, it was a very strong thing, like a robot. Okay. And it was saying something like, nah, you can't leave, you need to stay, like this thing has a hold on us, it's feeding on our sacral chakra, it's like parasite. And it was showing me how it was using, like it was like AI, like a bot, but it was like an entertainment system or a television system, but it was feeding off on them, because it was programming them or having them indulge in these like weird sexual acts, that causes them to like, basically like, just do all these like immoral sexual activities. And it was using that to feed on their sacral chakra. And the main people that were behind this were like 3 or 2 adults that were like businessmen or like programmers or stuff like that. So it's like the roots of this kind of go deep. Okay. But like I was saying, I have only 15 minutes because this channel is new. And so please guys, subscribe and share what you can to help us reach the number that we need to, so that I can be able to upload longer videos. Longer downloads and recordings, because I have only 15 minutes per video. So I will do another part of this. But the whole message behind this download or this recording is that you need to be mindful what your children are watching. Because one of the things that it's doing is, in the name of like free thinking and open-mindedness, it's causing these children to go astray, where they think they are going away from religion, but they are going away from God in general. They're going away from God in general, and it's leading them into these practices that are immoral and opening them up to a lot of different entities that now feed off their sexual energy through their sacral, like it's feeding off on them sexually. You understand? So a lot of millennials that are like just interested in like dumb things and just really not serious about anything, or like really have no focus on actual self-improvement and personal development, is because of these programming. Some of them, they've been programmed from since they were children. And so if you're a parent out there, it's really important to be mindful what your children are watching, because there are a lot of sinister things going on behind the scenes of some of these animations and the symbols they're using that has been going on for a very long time. But now, with the age of AI and technological advancement, it's being done in a much bigger way in broad daylight. So you need to be mindful, like places like YouTube, hope they don't censor this, like try to block this, but even places like YouTube, there are a lot of the animation part or the YouTube for kids, a lot of the things there are not for kids. And some of even the animations, like when I was digging around, something about Peggy the Pig, and then it's actually fake animations that you think are the original ones, but they are not. And they carry a lot of sexual content and profane things and abusive and aggressive things that these children are being taught to do. So please be mindful what the children are watching. Be mindful. Put the search off, or just make sure they are not. Don't leave them with the tablet as to use to buy time. It's not safe. Be mindful and make sure that what you're watching is actually uplifting and positive, guys. Again, only 15 minutes is what I have. So later on, I will carry